I mean, I always knew I wanted to get into physiotherapy, and I just kind of made the leap and jumped for it. So,
Hmm. And when we were talking a little bit before we started here, you're not looking back. You've enjoyed the experience. You've got a new culture, and you got learned a lot of new things, and you're getting to finally do what you want to do.
yeah, it's difficult. I mean, is it the experience I wanted to with COVID and everything happening? No, not really. I kind of left Canada, left home in the height of COVID, so it was really difficult trying to get passports, visa, and going over. And obviously, the learning structure was changed. I was one of the only courses in the UK that was allowed to physically be in class just because of the pandemic. But again, how are you supposed to teach practical skills online? You need that hands-on experience. You need to do that stuff. You need to be able to learn those skills and do everything. But I mean, having the chance to do it all again, 100% would, and be having the chance to even study abroad, but studying physio abroad in the UK is a great opportunity, not only just to have a change of scenery, but I mean, UK physio and the Canadian traditional route of physiotherapy is just a little bit different. The UK physio tends to shift the locus of control from the practitioner to the patient, and
Hmm.
shifting from more of an external locus to more of an internal locus of control.
Hmm.
I mean, and what I mean by this is many physios follow kind of that old school thinking format where it's more manual therapy, ice, heat, manual release, and stuff like that. Which again, there's nothing wrong with that. There is a time and place for that, but with the UK physio, it's more forward thinking. They try to get the patients really involved kind of from day one with the rehabilitation. And again, exercise is key. And I feel like that's where my love for physio kind of started off with is, you know, being in sport as a kid and growing up and being injured frequently. And I've had everything and anything you could think of under the sun, but being able to work within the fitness industry with someone like Mauro, who is a great coach, has extensive knowledge in a lot of things, and he's not just in it for the aesthetic aspect. It's more of a health reason, and then that's where I think my love for physio kind of grew,
Hmm.
where exercise and physio go hand in hand. Personal fitness and physio go hand in hand, and I feel like that tends to be lost in Canadian physio and just in general, as
Hmm.
opposed to the United Kingdom's aspect or how they see it, which is really cool. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm assuming that has something to do with like the nationalized program in terms of physiotherapy. It's part of, I guess, people's medical care. Is that correct?
Yeah, so physiotherapy in the United Kingdom is part of the NHS, so they're basically their healthcare system.
Hmm.
Um, for those older listeners of the podcast, you might remember physio actually used to be covered underneath
Hmm.
the our healthcare back home in Canada, and they
Hmm.
shifted to take that away, which I feel is one of the biggest atrocities ever to be committed in our healthcare system.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I do know a lot of private insurances do cover a certain amount of physios, but you got to think of it this way: if a insurance company covers what, $600, $500, whatever it is, and your initial assessment is anywhere between $100 to $120, that's over one session right there. It just, and if certain conditions that are chronic or that
Hmm.
are bigger that require more than 5, 6 sessions, that eats up a lot of the issue. And I feel like if it was covered under something, like not insurance aspect, but more of a healthcare aspect, I feel that you would get less recurring injuries. You'd be able to keep people in their sport or in their life more active, healthier, where you have less of these things occurring. And then in turn, you can shift that money or insurance somewhere else, like,
Hmm.
personal training or, health coach or just anything. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's a huge, huge, huge loss within the Canadian healthcare system. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the one really nice thing that I kind of see both sides to the coin being here in the UK, which is interesting for sure.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good point. Like, I think, preventative medicine would be great, and as you said, it was one time part of it, even dentistry and some other things as well. Like,
Mhm.
it just unfortunately, I guess the cost got too large, and the cost is usually that if people aren't taking care of themselves, at some point it costs more to take care of them, to keep them healthy, right? And it's not to disparage anybody. This is not to blame anybody, but I can see why in the scope of triage, you're going to try to focus on people who need the care right now. And a lot of times, like the physio and that stuff, it's like, okay, they're alive right now, so they don't need immediate help. And we need to keep these other people alive. So it's unfortunate that we have to sort of spend this money this way. And hopefully, I think with technology and a number of things, it might be the case that we eventually are able to take care of more people without having to need to cost more money to the system or to people. But that's our hope, right? And this is why we've taken a stand, and we're saying let's try to incite some change with people. Let's try to support people in making changes themselves so that they can prevent any sort of issues, so that they don't need this aftercare really, where it comes to the medical care system.
Of course.